It's a crisis that plays out on the streets across America, in the shadows and in plain sight. People struggling to find a place to go.
It's kind of been an adventure for me.
Lost.
It kind of burnt some bridges in the past.
Looking for hope. Homelessness may impact many places, but here in Oregon, there is one of the largest homeless populations in America. This week, we're going beyond the numbers of homelessness and putting faces to the statistics and how people are trying to help those impacted by an issue plaguing cities nationwide. This is The Race. Welcome to The Race. I'm Chris Stewart. More than 500,000 Americans on any given night spend it on the streets. We're talking about individuals, families, veterans. It is a problem that is often debated here in Portland, and we're talking about homelessness this week. But we found a group that's looking for answers, and they believe the answer begins on the streets.
I don't really have a support network.
It's different for each kid out here. Family problems or just their runaways.
I had a sudden death in the family. My dad passed away.
It's a little dehumanizing, I'm sure, for most people.
There are many reasons as to why someone would find themselves here.
Go to a spot that I know there are some people have their tent set up.
Tonight we're with a group trying to brighten a dark reality in Portland.
On outreach, we go directly to where people are at and meet them there.
Neil Sand and his team are on the streets every night looking to help homeless youth.
I will carry the tarps and you carry the bag for the basic supplies.
Like 22-year-old Devin.
Let's just say, like me and my parents, I kind of burnt some bridges in the past.
We found him in a tent with 3 other people.
How long have you guys been here? Well, Anthony's been on the streets for like 10 years. I've been on the streets for since June.
Neil says many homeless youth come from broken homes and abusive situations.
I don't think people have the understanding of those types of things when they're saying people are just choosing to be on the streets and they could just get a job.
The cause of homelessness and how to treat it is often debated. This man told us that he would rather live on the streets.
I kind of feel more stable out here, to be honest with you. And I wonder sometimes, could I handle the stressors that some people go through on a regular day basis?
We also met Dennis. He's been out here since August.
Honestly, Portland's the best city maybe not in the world, but in the country to be homeless. I mean, I've enjoyed the city more than anybody in the last 6 months.
Comments like that might fuel the argument not enough is being done to solve the problem.
Dig a little deeper beyond the soundbite, and when someone says that they're choosing homelessness and they love homelessness, I believe that no one chooses homelessness. I think that becomes a choice when your palette of options is so limited that that becomes the most attractive one.
Neil Sand and Dennis Lundberg both work for Janus Youth. It's one of the Pacific Northwest's largest nonprofits, working to help young people realize the options they may not see.
Once you build that trust, because one of the things, especially with young folks, is their sense of trust for adults has been completely damaged because of the abusive situations that they may have lived through. So we use those items as tools to break the ice, to build quick rapport, to establish quick trust.
Got some tarps if you need them.
Meaning the tarps, socks, and first aid are important first steps to help people like Devin.
I'm trying to be a welder. I'm going in the carpentry.
And stories like that, of hope, in a place where it can be hard to find, is what keeps Neil going block to block.
Do you need any supplies?
Every night.
My goal is to be involved in assisting as many people as I can on an individual level.
Families make up 1/3 of America's homeless population, and Bo Evans found an organization that's helped hundreds over the past 20 years.
Talik Freeman is 3 years old. He loves Legos and toy trains. But this year for Christmas, his parents just want an apartment they can sleep in at night.
I feel like we make good enough money to where we can maintain ourselves, you know. We just need that help getting in.
Talik is named after his dad, who goes to work every day. Their family still hasn't been able to get an apartment.
Filling out applications, talking with property managers and, working on the whole process. We're really close, super close,
According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, The Freeman family is just one of more than 50,000 families experiencing homelessness this year. Now, the three of them are trying to break the cycle and spending their nights at Mary's Place, a homeless shelter in Seattle.
Last year, we moved 650 families into housing. We're on pace to do more than that this year.
That's where Marty Hartman comes in. She's the director of Mary's Place. The organization has multiple locations, and this one is focused on getting families into homes quickly. Typically, these families are just one financial barrier away from ending their homelessness. Could be car trouble, some debt, or even paying to get recertified for a job. But because of these issues, they end up losing their home and have nowhere to go.
They were parked in by the child's school, if they were in a park, if they were in the back of a U-Haul, if they were in a public storage unit, just hoping not to be found.
Marty and Mary's Place searched the country for new options for these families and discovered housing diversion. Diversion is a technique used to get people back into a home before they end up entering a shelter. Marty and her team found it cost an average of $1,900 to get people back into a home, which she says is significantly cheaper than housing them in shelters. They use this shelter in Seattle as a combination between diversion and rapid rehousing, or housing people as fast as possible when they get to the shelter.
You can come inside, your children can have a bathroom, you can all take showers, you can have hot home-cooked meals, you can sit around the table together as a family, you can do your homework with a lamp instead of a street light.
At this shelter, the goal is to get families back into housing in 30 days or less. HUD says that the family homelessness problem is shrinking, and it's fallen by 27% since 2010. But those numbers don't make Talik feel any better.
When you have a family and you're a man, you know, you kind of, there's like an extra weight being put on your shoulders to, you know, come through, you know, for your family, for your wife and kids, you know.
For The Race, I'm Bo Evans.
Homelessness gets more attention now than it did in the past, but is it more common today? Annie Taylor's taking a look at the trends.
Chris, our partners at PolitiFact found that the progress on homelessness is slowing. The Department of Housing and Urban Development says 567,000 Americans had no permanent shelter in 2019. The good news? That's down 11% from 2007. According to PolitiFact, a drop in veteran and chronic homelessness helped drive the decrease. Family homelessness is down too. Now, there are still some challenges. HUD says that homelessness is up by 3% since 2018, and a lot of that increase came from California. But homelessness is a national issue. These 10 states have the highest homelessness rate. According to PolitiFact, 55% of America's homeless people live in these states. Experts tell PolitiFact that housing in those states is getting more expensive fast, and that could be why homelessness has been inching back up since 2016. I'm Annie Taylor for The Race.
Cities across America are getting creative when it comes to dealing with homelessness. New York City just launched the Journey Home Plan. It's to create thousands of permanent and emergency beds. Minnesota's governor did something similar in an effort to get more people into shelters. In Oakland, some groups take people to the DMV, and other agencies get documentation so they can get housing and a job. And in Vegas, the answer to eliminating homelessness could be these domes. A startup called GeoShip submitted a proposal to the city. It says these dome villages could solve homelessness. It says these structures are the lightest, strongest, most efficient enclosed spaces out there. Las Vegas is considering the idea. Homelessness can carry a stigma, but as animator Nick Refuerzo explains, there are many contributing factors.
The National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty says homelessness is getting more common. Up to 3.5 million Americans are homeless, living on the street or some type of shelter, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. But that definition does not count another 7.5 million people or more who live with others because they can't afford their own place. The newest data paints a more detailed picture of the homeless population. Mostly male, single, middle-aged people of color. But the crisis goes far beyond that. More Americans are homeless today than before the Great Recession, and the list of factors that contribute to the crisis is growing. One major factor is affordable housing. One study found more than a quarter of people who rent pay their landlords more than half their monthly income. 75% of those same people don't have enough money after rent to pay their other bills. That's where poverty, another common factor, comes in. Domestic violence is also a contributing factor, especially among women. An estimated 15% of homeless adults in shelters say they survived domestic abuse. Unemployment, substance abuse, and mental illness also play a prominent role. There are multiple challenges in measuring the reach of homelessness. Federal agencies define and measure homelessness differently. Plus, many measurements rely on self-reporting. Experts think that means the homeless population is higher than we think.
For some Americans, homelessness is a chronic, generational problem. We're going to take a look at that pattern next.